got Hazel Smith, who has been working at Wychavon, haven't you, Hazel? But you've now moved across to a much better place, which is Malvern. And then obviously we've got Claire Bull, who's Development Manager Householder Team, who's going to be presenting the application tonight. I've got Rachel Cherrington Walker, Legal Advisor, on my right, and Alison Freeman, Democratic Services, further on my right. There isn't any update sheet tonight, as far as I know. So we can actually go straight into the application. So I'll turn to Claire. Thank you, Claire.
Thank you, Chair. Okay, so this application is relating to 4 Meadow Close, Bourton. It's for a proposed new roof and a side extension to an existing garage. This application, it follows a previous application on the scheme on the site, which was previously refused due to the impact on views from the public right-of-way and a failure of the scheme to comply with SWDP 21 as well as the SPD design guide. It follows fire damage to an existing building. The fire, I understand, was in 2022. So this location plan shows the site. It's on the outskirts of Bourton. The access is from the north, from the B4104, or was it the A14104? But there are public rights of way in the locality. They're around 130 to 140 metres. There's one to the west and one just off the screen to the south. Here's an aerial view of the site. There's agricultural land to the east, south and west. It's not subject to any local or national designations. The nearest heritage assets are some listed buildings which are around 200 metres to the west. Here's just a bit of a closer view of the site. The main house is a semi-detached dwelling. In the garden, which is quite generous, there is an annex building which is in the centre of the screen, and towards the bottom corner is the application building that the proposal relates to. So this shows the application building as it was originally approved in 2017 before the fire. It's around 6 by 6 metres in footprint. And the height is 3.8 metres to the ridge. This proposed block plan shows that this application seeks to extend the garage by the addition of a carport structure to the side. And this just shows the nearest neighbours are all to the north. So here's the existing floor plan and the proposed floor plans. The extension would see the building extended by 5 metres to the side, which is the carport section. A new first floor would be added by raising the roof, and this would allow that space to be used for a proposed gym or storage area. So here's the existing elevations, which show that the roof has largely been destroyed. And then the proposed elevations, which we're considering as part of this application. The area above in the roof, the area above the existing garage will be finished in brick with plain tiles as well, and the carport would be largely open but with timber cladding. This shows the scheme that was refused not last year now, but 2023, which showed a slightly larger extension, and this shows the differences between what was previously at committee and what's now proposed. So it's very similar, but it's been reduced in size, and as part of this application, a landscape assessment has also been submitted. So here's some images of the site. This shows the building after the fire, located in the bottom corner, right next to the boundary and adjacent to agricultural land. This is the view within site looking towards the annex building, which is the central building within the site, looking towards the dwelling in the background. Here's another image of the annex building. Just for a bit of background, the annex building was originally constructed as a garage. Over time, it had permission for an increase in its height and amendments. And then in 2014, it got permission retrospectively to be used as an annex building. And here's just a view from the highway to the north. And then this is images which were provided within the submitted landscape assessment, showing the indicative views which compare the site with the top one is if the existing building were repaired largely in accordance with the previous approval in 2017. So that building there. And then the bottom image is the building if we were to approve the current application and the changes were implemented, showing the increase in height. And then there's another view towards the site from the highway to the south. Okay, so the recommendation is for approval, and this is subject to the conditions as outlined in the report. It's noted the application was previously refused at committee, and this is a material consideration as part of this scheme. And the recommendation for approval has come from the submission of an additional information from the applicant in the form of the landscape assessment and the slight reduction in size of the proposal. And on balance, the council your officers consider that this addresses the previous refusal. Thank you.
Thank you, Claire. We have a representative from the parish council, Mike Brooks. Mike, would you like to go up to the mic, please? You've got your 3 minutes. Thank you very much, Mike.
Yes, thank you. Apologies in advance. Some of what I have to say, of course, has been clarified already by the officer, so it is slightly repetitive, but I think it needs to be said. So thank you for the opportunity. This application 1008 submitted for the purpose of enlarging and rebuilding a pre-existing garage structure that was destroyed in a catastrophic fire. It should be noted that the earlier application was turned down by yourselves, as in 2023. The only apparent difference between the two applications is the fact that the 2 metre wide store element has been removed. Other than that, there were no material alterations in any way to mitigate against the problems identified the last time. The whole Meadow Close site includes 2 semi-detached dwellings, separate from other properties, each with generous garden space overlooking open farmland. They were built at a time when vehicles were less common and are accessed by a single-width driveway. The property subject to the application was purchased in 1996 under the right to buy provisions and had restrictive covenants placed upon it requiring all alterations and or building to be ratified by the housing association from whom it came prior to any construction. Unfortunately, I've been unable to get any information from the housing association as to whether or not those permissions have at any point been granted since 1996. All the development since that time has been done by the current applicant. The 3 major issues identified are: the development as proposed is excessive for the plot. We already have the extended house that you've seen on the photograph, and the first converted garage, itself a self-contained entity with conservatory, and this proposal would create a 3rd living space on the same plot. Were this application be granted, if all 3 buildings were to be occupied, then the inevitable traffic increase to the plot would be to the detriment of other residents. It is noted that there is nothing in the application to indicate how the building would be used, other than the gym, but the applicant has indicated in the past to neighbours that his intention is to rent the properties. granting this application would allow the property to dominate the overall site, i.e. the Meadow Close site, and change the enjoyment of the other residents along with an absence of council tax liability. It is our understanding that the annex, so described, is currently rented as we speak. The proposal would be detrimental to the visual aspect from the public aspect to the south. The original buildings were sited in such a way as to limit that visual impact. The gardens were bordered by trees and hedgerows, and the continued expansion of the buildings on this plot have widened the site and increased its visual impact on the local environment. The additional height as proposed with windows would create significant visual change, along of course with further hard landscaping of the overall site. One of the most important things, third and final, the access drive from the A4105 is single width, and were the properties to be built today would not be acceptable. The access is partially hidden by a neighbouring cottage, and more traffic use would increase the hazard. And it should be noted that when the fire occurred, the fire tender itself could not get into the driveway, and the restriction delayed the fire brigade's activities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. I'll open it up to members then, please. Who'd like to go first? Councillor Allen?
Yes, thank you, Chair. As a ward member, I'd like to speak on this. Could I thank our officers for their hard work? And can I also thank the Parish Council for coming and speaking tonight. I always appreciate when Parish Councils come and speak to us. There have been a number of planning applications on this garage, two of which were retrospective. Possibly there was a point when we have to say is enough. I'm not sure if we've reached that point, but it has to be considered. And I note, as you've just heard, that Hillcreen Parish Council object, and I can understand their statement and concerns. This application seeks substantially to increase the size of the original garage. And policy SWDP 21 design states development proposals must complement the character of the area. I'm not sure that I believe that they do. However, I will listen to members' views before making a final decision. The new development to me would create a massing at the end of the garden, which is very conspicuous from the public footway running in the field behind. If you look at the proposed plans from the bridleway, it will appear to be one very large structure, I believe. To me, this application in fact conflicts with SWDP 21 Part B and possibly in particular Para 1, siting and layout. And I quote, the siting and layout of a development should reflect the given characteristics of the site in terms of appearance and function. Para 5 says settlement character. The distinct identity and character of settlements should be safeguarded. And Para 8, scale, height and massing. The scale, height and massing of developments must be appropriate to the setting of the site and the surrounding landscape character and the townscape, including existing urban green and density. When the 4 dwellings were built, the layout was deliberately designed to break up and minimise the view from open countryside. This continues to significantly change the countryside aspect to its detriment if we go ahead with this application, though members may feel that is acceptable. As I said, I would like to listen to other members' views. I then may seek to put forward a proposal, and I would reserve the right to sum up at the end. However, should the committee decide to approve this application, I just want to make sure that any part of the property cannot be sold off separately and turned into a separate dwelling. And I think I'll leave it there for now and listen to what members have to say. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for that. I'm just looking at the kind of landscape plan between the existing building repaired and the current proposal from the public right-of-way. I think I noticed in the document somewhere the landscape and tree officer was okay with this, but suggested, you know, there might be an opportunity for more planting to screen the building from the public right of right of way. So, you know, looking at those pictures, yes, it would take obviously a few years for planting to be established to act as a screen, but I wonder whether that is also an opportunity to kind of mitigate some of the impacts of the proposed development.
Yes, so the landscape officer didn't raise any objections, but did suggest a condition, which was, well, he suggested two conditions. One was for the materials to be submitted prior to construction so that we have approval of those, and the other one was for a scheme of landscaping to be submitted. In view of what the applicant has provided in terms of materials, I didn't think we needed further information, but members could decide that they wish for that to. Members could decide that they wish for that condition to be attached. And in terms of landscaping, again, in view of the changes proposed, which is what really we need to consider, because there is an existing building there, so it is the change from the existing to what's now proposed. I didn't feel it was essential that landscaping was needed, but members are entitled to ask for that condition to be attached should they think that permission is appropriate.
Thank you, Claire. Who else? Councillor Wilde?
Yes, I was concerned to hear that the fire engine couldn't get up the lane. What are the regulations regarding this?
So the issue really with the access is that because they're not proposing any additional living accommodation or bedrooms in association with what's already there, it's not raised, we can't consider it as a material issue that there would be an increase in traffic. They're proposing the building as part of the use of the existing. So really, we have to consider that the level of use doesn't change as a result of this.
Can I just come back on that? It's about whether, I mean, that's a building that did set on fire and they did need the services to come and put it out, and they couldn't get up there. So I'm not sure you quite answered me about, they still need access up there.
Yeah, I appreciate that, but they could build the building. They could rebuild the building as it is, and it would still be there. So this application doesn't change that. It doesn't.
Is it the same for the other building that you've got, which I believe some people are renting?
The other building is classed as an annex, and if we wanted to investigate if it was a separate dwelling, then we could do so. But in planning to, well, from my point of view, I cannot consider it a dwelling without evidence of such. Lawfully, according to the planning history, it's an annex in association with the main house.
Okay, I remain concerned about that.
No, I do appreciate it, and I am aware of the various objections that have been raised by neighbours as part of this application and the previous application in respect of the access. Perhaps this is a matter that may have been better considered when the original proposal was put forward, but yes, unfortunately I'm limited as to what I consider now.
Thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Rain?
Thank you, Chair. I'm worried about the access issue too. It is a rather complicated route that vehicles would, and it will be vehicles as it's a garage, will have to follow. If we look at the proposed block plan, house number 1 in this arrangement has a large square building, I suppose, at the bottom of their garden. Do we know what that is? Is that a garage or is it a settlement house?
we'd have to have a look into that. Hazel, could you take a look? Perhaps we carry on and Hazel can let us know if she
Right.
she can
Yeah.
find anything on our mapping system as to what that building could be.
I think the clerk can help you with the answer.
I was just going to ask John, could you just clarify which bit you're talking about?
Yes,
On which
plot number 1, or house number 1 in Meadow Close, the bottom of their garden, there it is, that's
Yeah,
it, yes.
yeah.
I just wonder whether that was a dwelling or a double garage or what.
That's plot 2.
Is it plot 2, is it?
Do you mean this building here with the arrows? Okay, so yeah, there doesn't appear to be any planning history on that building. It may be that because it's part of the domestic curtilage, they could have erected it under permitted development rights. You can construct a building of quite a significant size, provided it doesn't take up more than 50% of the curtilage. So it may be that they've exercised their rights in that respect.
So just to be clear on a point, the applicant hasn't got any permitted development rights now, we don't think.
They do have their permitted development rights, so they could construct a building within the site under those. It may this particular garage, it's too close to the boundary and too tall to be considered acceptable under permitted development.
Right, okay, that's clear, thank you. Any other questions? No, doesn't look like it. So, Councillor Allen, you wanted to come back as the ward member and
Yes,
make a
thank you.
recommendation.
Okay, thank you, Chair. Thank you, members. I've listened to everything you've had to say. On balance, I believe this should be refused. I'll be honest, though it's not a material fact in planning, so you can't vote on this bit, I think it's going to end up as another annex, to be quite honest. I think the roof's too tall. And the access problem with the fire brigade we already know is a problem. So if it does turn into another annex, it's just going to make matters worse. But anyway, reasons why I think it should be refused. I quoted SWDP 21 Part B, Paras 1, Paras 5 and Para 8. I won't read them out again. And SWDP 21 Design. And I think they quite clearly show that these 4 dwellings were built and the layout was designed to break up and minimise the view from open countryside. This changes that. Nobody can say it doesn't, because it does, because it's going to be bigger and the roof's going to be a lot taller than it is now. So I think really it's a fairly easy case for me to say we've got the SWDPs, we've got a reason why it should be refused, and I would hope that you'll support me in this. So I'm looking for a seconder, please.
So can I have a second? Thank you, Councillor Rain. Okay, so we'll move to the vote, Rachel.
All those in favour of the motion to refuse the planning application, please raise your voting cards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All those against the motion? Any abstentions? The motion to refuse the planning application is carried.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you to the officers as well for all your time and effort. Thank you.